Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a virtual edition of INFOCOM CIO Connect Roundtable, Bangladesh, chapter presented by Tenable and CyberArk and powered by the Telegraph Online. As you all know, that INFOCOM is ABP Group India's flagship business technology leadership event, which is being hosted for the last 20 years. And our partners for today's CIO Connect virtual roundtable are Tenable, one of the innovative leaders in cyber risk solutions with specialty in risk-based vulnerability management, and CyberArk, a leader in identity security and access management solutions. On behalf of INFOCOM, Tenable, and CyberArk teams, I welcome all the CIO participants joining in today from Bangladesh. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us today. The theme for today's roundtable is cyber risk, lessons learned from remote working. So just a little intro into the theme. All of you are experts. Like with organizations obviously adopting digital and remote working, which has been triggered by the pandemic, cybersecurity has become one of the most existential threats of our times. And remote working has enabled extensive use of new types of connected devices and compute platforms from cloud to IoT, which have exploded the cyber attack surface. And more tools collecting more data doesn't equate to actionable insights for the technology leaders like you, the CIOs, CISOs, and the top leadership. And of course, the old way of simply scanning on-premise IT devices for vulnerabilities is no longer enough. And therefore, we feel that it's time for a new approach. Given this background, the trust areas on cyber risk and remote working in today's brainstorming session are as follows. That is full visibility about your attack surface, control, manage, and monitor privileged access to your most valued assets, imperatives to protect against cyber risk, and how to disrupt attack paths with zero trust. The objective of today's interactive session is to delve deeper into the cyber risk enhanced by remote working and enable us with the visibility and insight on the way forward. Yes. The agenda today is, like we'll move into the context setting now, and there will be a, another 60 minutes of interaction with the CIOs. And so a 90-minute session is what we are looking for. We have you captured for the next 90 minutes for us. That's the agenda for today. And I'd like to introduce the CIOs who joined in. We have, almost we've had a phenomenal response. More than 30 CIOs have, confirmed, and they're with us today. Quickly look at them. We have from Al Arafa Islamic Bank, from the Anwar Group, then Aristo Pharma, Bank Asia, BAT Bangladesh, then Bata Shoe Company, Bangladesh, Berger Paints, Bangladesh, Beximco, Brack Bank, BSRM Group. We welcome all of you, sir. And we also have Mr. Kharuzaman from CCBL. From Citizens Bank PLC, we have Mr. Ehsanuzaman. Daffodil International University is also participating, Mr. Professor Dr. Tawhid Bhuiya. We have Mr. Saiful Islam from Dhaka Bank, Mr. Ziaul Karim from Dhaka Stock Exchange. From the Edison Group, Mr. Husna Zaman Al-Hadi. Energy Pack Power, Wahid Sadat Chaudhary. General Pharmaceuticals, Mr. Yunus Haider from IFIC Bank, and from Islami Bank, we have Mr. Nasrul Haq and Mr. Mosharraf Hussain. We welcome all of you, sir. And finally, Mr. Shamal Das from Meghna Bank and Mr. Shafi Kamal from Mercantile Bank. From NCC Bank, we have Mr. Anisur Rahman, One Bank, Hussain Ahmed, and Mr. Mehbubul Alam Rafael from Prime Bank, Mr. Farooq Ahmed from Rupali Bank, Shafkat Haider sir from SARC CCI, and Southeast Bank, we have Mr. Khalid Hassan, Sovereign Secure UK, Mr. Omar F. Khandakar, and the Premier Bank, Mr. Mashukur Rahman. We welcome all of you. The session today is going to be moderated by Mr. Harish Agarwal, who is the partner Ernst & Young LLP and the CEO of Ernst & Young India Consulting. We welcome you, sir. And we are also joined today by Mr. Sudeep Das, who's the pre-sales manager for Tenable India and SARC, and Mr. Sumit Srivastava, who's the head of solutioning and pre-sales for India and SARC for CyberArk. We welcome all of you. And without further ado, we are going to move on to the session, and I'd like to hand over the session to Harish Agarwal, sir, to set the context and take the session forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Raki. Very good afternoon to everybody. It's been a while since we've met most of you in person. I've got fond memories of meeting all of you in person during INFOCOM in Dhaka, and also when you would come down to Calcutta for INFOCOM during. I have started traveling to Dhaka, and I have met with some of you in person, and I look forward to meeting with you with the rest of you very soon. And I think, I was just thinking about it. It's been what, nearly 2 years since COVID has happened, and the 2 years went by in a whirl. And last week, my daughter's school opened up for the first time for her to go to school in person. This was from last Tuesday, and we had such a huge scene at home because she said, "Why should I go to school in person? I can very well study from home. It is more efficient. Why should I go to the school?" And we had a tough time explaining it to her that she does need to go out and meet with her friends. And she said, "No, I still meet with her friends, except we meet on Zoom, and we have dinners together, whereby the friends are eating their dinner at home and I'm eating my dinner at home." So then we gave the other argument that this will allow you to be a little bit more collaborative with your teacher. And she said, "No, this way I raise my hand, the teacher talks to me, but if I go in a classroom, there are 50 students, sometimes the teacher doesn't even look at me. So I'm being more efficient, I bring more, I can study better. Why should I go to the school?" And honestly, after a while, I realized that I didn't have the right answer to give her, except to tell her, because I'm saying you go, I bolchi tumi jao. I think that's the only answer I had to give to her. And the other thing that I was thinking was, and I'm slightly old-fashioned, is if you go back 2 years ago, working from home was considered in a negative connotation. So you said, "Oh, let's meet in person." That was always that you're meeting. Sorry, if you said, "Let's have a meeting," that was always meant that you're going to meet in person. And then if somebody said that, "Can I join remotely because I'm traveling?" then you would say, "Okay, that's an exception." Now it's the ulta. Now, when you send out a meeting invite, people always assume it's going to be an online meeting, and online has become the positive word. An in-person meeting is now called offline, which has become the negative word. So how the world has changed, and I'm sure as we talk through the next 90 minutes or so, 95 minutes or so, I'm sure you'll have some ideas to share. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look at some data points that I was looking at, and then I'm going to invite Sumit and Sudeep to share their perspectives. And after that, I was thinking maybe I'll throw a few questions out in the open, and maybe I would invite one or two CIOs to opine on that as we go through. I was looking at some data. If you go back to March 2020, 33% of the businesses, and this is global, were insufficiently prepared for emergency remote secure access. I know that, for example, if you look at EY, we've always been ready for work from anywhere. All our people had laptops. We assumed all of them had broadband at home. If not, we gave out dongles. Our IT systems were configured to work from anywhere. But we realized that, what about people who joined new? Because for those 6 or 7 weeks of hard lockdown, there was no way of getting across laptops to the new people who joined. And then, we all had to figure out how to do that. We also realized that about 80% of the board members said that their organizations were ill prepared to deal with significant cyber threats. A similar number think that there's a human connection or a human factor which is the weakest link for a cyber attack. And then 2 quarters of the CIOs said that there is an increased work from home security risk, where people are working from home because we know there's sometimes when people are using their personal laptops, the right patches are not applied. We've seen people have saved their passwords in the browser, and we've seen cases where malicious uh, attackers have gone into those personal laptops of people who are working remotely, and through that came into the to the official network. I was also looking at it, which are the various cases that have happened. I think phishing has really gone up. It was always there, but it's really gone up, whereby new people who are working from home, they've not been trained well. If I look at the industries that have been really affected during COVID-19, I think finance services, and I think today we have a significant number of CIOs from the financial domain, and I'm sure they'll share their point of view. But nearly 23% of the total affected industries were financial and insurance, and then followed by manufacturing, followed by engineering, energy. Sorry. So that's how it kind of evolved. And then if I see the incremental risks that are posed by the remote working model, there is a risk of disclosure of corporate sensitive information through leakage, whereby you don't know if, when you're working at home or somebody's working at home, if there are people who can overhear that individual who may or may not be part of the same family, but maybe working for competition. So this may actually happen unknowingly. And obviously, malicious attackers can go into the system and get that. Failure to detect work from home security anomalies, obviously. There is probably when we started the COVID process, and it's now become much, much better, there were inadequate baseline standards for remote access facilitating devices. Have people, for example, secured their modems at home or their routers at home? Lack of work from home events monitoring. How do you monitor if the person is actually doing the work? And I think we've started to hear this, where we've heard of cases where employees have been moonlighting, whereby they're employed by more than one organization. And then how do you ensure that that's not happening? We've heard of cases where you're interviewing an individual, somebody else A is giving the interview for B, and then B joins. So some of those also create, operation effectiveness, but also security risks for organization. There is an increased susceptibility to DDoS attacks. We have to look at how the VPN is secured. And then how do you restrict connection based on the work from home geographical location? What if your employee is sitting in a location where there is a high chances of you getting hit? So I think these are the risks that we have seen. And maybe if I would invite Sudeep and Sumit. Sudeep, maybe yourself first to share your thoughts as to what you've seen. If you could, take a minute and talk about yourself, and then share what you've seen in the last 2 years, how you've seen organizations deal with the challenge and evolve. And then I'll come to Sudeep.
Oh, thank you, Harish. This is Sudeep Das here. I manage the technical sales team for Tenable, and I have been in the security industry for over 20 years. Many of you I have personally met, and I've worked with you. I have had the privilege to do that. So the idea for looking into work from home again and again and again and again in the last 2 years, and we have continued to do that, is primarily because every day the work from home issue is becoming even bigger a problem, right? In the last entire of 2021, the number of vulnerabilities that we have looked into, VPN has been the primary source of primary target areas. So people are working from home. People are also focusing on VPN. The number of exploits around VPN systems have gone up. Another significant change that we have seen over the last few years is the number of vulnerabilities that have an exploit available. If you look at Log4j or the recent ones that has come in, pretty much almost all of them are coming with an exploit, ready exploit, the moment it is getting, it is being released, right? So before that exploit really comes in, we're seeing the need to act so fast. Within a few days, I have to go ahead and patch the system, right? So these changes, the controls remain the same, but the speed at which we need to report and act on it is becoming more and more. And that is really stretching our imagination around what to prioritize, how to prioritize. And that is something that I wanted to share and understand. How are we focusing on what to prioritize, what to find out as the most important thing? Is patching the only issue that we should be solving? Or should we solve the issue of what these malwares are really focusing on? That is, credentials and the sensitive data. How can we focus our areas there? And of course, the last but not least is to make sure that we are prepared better to understand how we can predict the next move and find out, instead of just being proactive, maybe we can do more predictive in nature in handling our security issues.
So Sudeep, if I was to summarize, would you say security has also become agile?
Super agile, super agile, absolutely. We're looking at updates twice a day today. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Sudeep. If I may call on Sumit.
Yeah, thanks, Harish. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm Sumit Srivastava from CyberArk, and I take care of the pre-sales and solutioning for India and SAARC region. And yeah, so definitely in the current times. So if we see that during the pandemic, during these 2 years, so what we've seen that the consumers have been, they've been moving dramatically towards the online channels, right? And the companies and industries have responded in turn. So in fact, as per McKinsey's global survey, which was done a year back, so that showed that the digitalization of the customer and supply chain interactions, as well as the internal operations of the companies, that has, it's gone ahead by 3 to 4 years. And in fact, the digital products, especially if we see the banking segment or others who have adopted the online, so they have increased by, they have advanced by almost 7 years. Now, while this is going on, and we see that this has to be met with the resources, the employees working remotely. They could not go to the office, they had to work remotely, they had to still ensure that they stayed ahead of the curve. They could enable business in such a way that the consumers could consume it online, and the business would not just survive, but it would thrive. Challenge with this, the only challenge I would say, was that while it helped in improving the sustenance of business and making them do better through the innovations and reducing the cost of business as employees worked remotely and the office cost and all that came down, it resulted in a larger attack surface and some very costly data breaches. In fact, Gartner had predicted that 60% of the digital business worldwide would suffer major service failures due to lack of focus on managing the digital risk. If we dissect the breaches from the recent past, we'll notice that at the heart of such attacks was some sort of compromise of privileges or some sort of privilege escalation that was done. And if we talk about JP Morgan Chase data breach or the Uber data breach, which were quite famous, there was one thing in common between any of these, which was the stolen passwords, the stolen credentials. And in fact, Verizon's own 2020 data breach investigation report highlighted that over 80% of the breaches are tied to the lost or stolen credentials. So things like moving to the cloud, digital transformation, increase in automation, and so they have dramatically expanded the attack surface for the organizations. And each step forward creates new doors that need to be locked, that need to be secured. If we take a step back, it seems like an insurmountable challenge that we are facing today. It's about thinking, how can we do this without boiling the ocean? And more importantly, how can we do this without slowing down? Because we cannot slow down the speed of our digital transformation. And on top of that, all this challenge has been further enhanced by our teams working remotely, a lot of them having the corporate laptops, but then there are some who are using their own personal devices. People are working from mountains, they are working from beaches, they are working from coffee shops. Now it's the perimeter has dissolved now. It's no more the employees coming to office in the secure perimeter of the office. They are connecting their devices and working so we can secure the environment. So with the people working remotely, now it's not only about the IT admins having those privileged access, who can get access to the data, which is of importance to the organization, which is of importance to the attackers. But in a given situation, any identity, any user can become privileged. And on top of it, there are instances of people sharing passwords. So somebody working remotely, we cannot even trust a user entering the password and logging in. We have to authenticate the user himself or herself to make sure that the person does not only have the password, but he or she is the legitimate user. So how do we do all these things to ensure that when the users are there working remotely, we secure our environment and we are able to proceed with the accelerated pace on our transformation journey, enabling business and thriving, in fact, not just about surviving.
Thanks, Sumit. Respected CIOs, while I'm going to ask a few questions to Sudeep and Sumit, I would request you to raise your hand and, wherever you want to opine, please do, and I will call on you. And then, I don't think we have enough time to ask all of you the questions, but I will probably ask a few select questions to some of them that I can see on the screen. And then I would request the others to raise their hands and talk about it. But before I start, Sumit and Sudeep, I'm going to throw a very different question to you. We see that whenever attacks happen on large global organizations, the malicious actors always wanted to be paid in cryptocurrency. And we also saw that in the last 2 years, the prices of cryptocurrencies really went up. And then now in the last 3 months, we can see that the cryptocurrencies have come down. Now, part of that could be because obviously various governments have been tightening their screws on the cryptocurrencies. But could it also be that the demand for cryptocurrency has dropped, whereby organizations have become tighter, they are least, susceptible to being asked, held to ransom. Do you think there might be a correlation there, or you think it's just wishful thinking from somebody like me?
Well, I think the cryptocurrency, I don't think so. The cryptocurrency really is following the cybercrime graph the way we want to see it, right? It's a parallel financial instrument. Of course, it is powered by a lot of underground currency movement, and we have seen that, of course, being paid in cryptocurrency is a favorite mode. And the world outside cybercrime is also benefiting out of it. I do not personally think cryptocurrency has got any relation to cybercrime. Let cryptocurrency grow the way it wants to grow. Let's not say it is riskful. Otherwise, it will be another of those technologies in the name of security. We will bolidan kore debo types, right? Cloud has been a classic case where adoption of cloud has been hampered because of the security risks. Similarly, cryptocurrency, hopefully we will not stop adoption of cryptocurrency because of security, unawareness around the whole thing. That would be my personal view.
Well,
again,
honestly, I didn't mean that. I thought, the only thing I was said was that, it went up really fast. Was it because part of it was driven by huge demand from malicious actors who were
I would like to disassociate those from each other. Yeah.
Sumit, your views?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I totally agree with Sudeep, and I think it's cryptocurrency going down in value should not encourage us to just drop our guards down and and be open to taking risks, because we know that and the data in fact shows that the number of cyber attacks, that those have grown multifold over the last 2 to 3 years. So as the pandemic hit in 2019, and it has been growing ever since. So the cyber attack data goes definitely against, it doesn't really show that the movement of cryptocurrency is related to it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. So Sumit and Sudeep, the first question that I would ask from the two of you, and then I'll throw it open to the CIO group, is how did you see organizations, prepare for home working or remote working when the pandemic suddenly hit? What were the leading practices that you might have noticed, including in your own organization? Like I mentioned at the beginning, my organization that I work for, EY, was inherently built for remote working. And, I think most of us switched to working remotely very, very quickly. But even we had to face niggles where new employees, we had to get them, figure out a way to enable them. So what are the leading practices that you've seen, or what are the innovations you've seen that people have done to enable this in the last 2 years?
I'll take a shot first. We have only seen the adoption of security control get accelerated during this pandemic, right? People were planning and taking a cautious view of adopting the security controls. I think the work from home just accelerated. For example, the adoption of VPN was always there. It became more prevalent and more widespread, right? The adoption of, again, to bring back to the Tenable side, the adoption of vulnerability management program for critical servers expanded into the IoT devices and the desktops and the cloud resources, the web application. People started thinking, okay, we do understand that we have opened up, so we have to open up our vulnerability management program. So the scale of the security solutions increased. I have not seen much in adoption of completely new different security controls. Of course, they are there, but I believe the primary response has been to cover more. Right. One of the things that we always talk about security is the weakest link. And we know that even if we have a control in place, if you're not covering the entire attack surface, things which are left open just nullifies the control in place at all, right? So from that perspective, we have organizations proactively come over to us and ask, what more can we do? For example, to give a quick short example, when I was working with Rafael sir at Prime Bank, we were doing identity, the entire SOC. And he kept on asking, what more should we do? So the inquisitiveness of what more, I think, has increased as we have seen during the pandemic. People have become more open to ideas, and we have had way more conversations. I think we all know we have had way more Zoom calls over the work from home over the last 2 years. And that's the primary thing that really makes me very happy, that we are talking more, we are opening up with more ideas. We are not simply closing our mind saying that, okay, we have a budget, we have a time frame, let's work on that. People are willing to go beyond their budget and their time available to create more programs, adopt more programs, and be proactively ready for the next war now to, address in our boardrooms.
Right. Thanks. Sumit, your views?
So at CyberArk, as we engaged our customers during the pandemic times, we found that it was a sudden decision, right? The countries, the governments taking the decision that from tomorrow, the employees have to work remotely. They cannot just come to office. There was a complete shutdown all of a sudden. And then things started opening up slowly, where the employees were allowed to work remotely and not come to office. So that was kind of a shock which the organizations got, and they had to absorb, but they had to really overcome it very quickly and make things happen, make the business run. And while talking to our customers, we found that a lot of them, they were constrained with shipping the laptops to their employees, because most of the devices here would come from Southeast Asia, and there was no import that was happening. The laptops in the country, in the subcontinent, in our region, they got exhausted, and there was no fresh supply coming. So the customers, they started talking about zero trust. They started talking about anybody accessing from anywhere, using any device, had to be secured. Now, it was not about, there was no perimeter left. it was not about like employees accessing. They did not know like who's sitting at the other end, whether the employee is logging onto the servers themselves, or is it their friends or brothers, sisters, who is. So it was about anyone accessing from anywhere using any device had to be secure. So that was the big change that we saw, and we started hearing from the customers. And so security was at the top of their mind, and zero trust is what started coming up as one of the top priorities.
Right. If I may, and again, this is in no order, if I may call upon Mr. Zahidul Haq at Bragg Bank, Senior VP and Head of Information Security. I can see you online, sir.
Yes, I am here.
Same question for you. How did you prepare your organization? And staff it towards the remote working immediately when it got hit, and then what are the leading practices you've seen evolve over the last 2 years?
Like previously, in our organization, we had some sort of practice, as you said, like in NY you have, like also in our organization, we had some sort of practice, but it was limited to technology people only, or few other people who deal with regulatory perspective or so. But we had that technology platform, and then we had to increase license and others. We had to ship that immediately. So it was challenging, but we could manage somehow. So immediately we could initiate this whole practice in a short period of time. But we had to take a number of security initiatives as well, because as you know, while we are trying to protect somebody within our control, within our area, then it is something, it's one situation. And when we are allowing them to work from home, so it's also requires some sort of awareness and others, because we don't have control over their internet. And so in our case, we had another sort of challenges, like as you know, we have multiple digital transformation initiative, and while this pandemic knocked to us, so we had to force our this activity. We had multiple processes, so multiple projects, and it got increased, and we had multiple vendors also. I mean, we had multiple partners with whom we worked. So that was another big challenge. I mean, internal people management is one kind of challenge, and then when we need to allow our external partners to our network, then it was another challenge. So somehow we could manage. Yes, we had also privilege access thing, previous access capability we had. So we had to increase those. So we managed somehow, but it was extremely challenging, and every day, I mean, it was, I mean, you understand from a chair of a security head or security professional. So it was really challenging, and still we are running with that challenge.
No, in your case, and I'm going to call on a couple of CIOs from the other financial services background. I think particularly if you're a financial services organization like a bank, it's not only your data, it's really data
Yes.
of your customers, which is and then obviously you have to comply with a lot of regulations, which would be not only Bangladesh specific regulations, but in some
Yes.
cases, if those customers are citizens
Like
of another
GDPR
country,
and so, yes.
Absolutely, or FDIC, etc. So
Yes.
I think one more question, Zahid, before you go. All CISOs, they always get asked this return on investment question from their board. In the last 2 years, has that stopped? Are people still asking the return on investment, or that's the positive thing that's come out?
I would say it was a balance sort of thing. Like we got always support from our board as before we received this support from them. At the same time, our senior management was there very keen on our data protection and security. So from that perspective, we got always support from them and guidance from them, and accordingly, I would say it increased, not decreased in any way during last 2 years.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask, I'm going to call on a few other CIOs and CTOs. Mr. Rahman, if I may request you.
Yes. First of all, I joined a little late because I am running a family crisis. I just joined a few minutes back, and as I given the commitment, so I just joined not set up very, I mean, not did so much of homework and not listening from the beginning. Can you ask the question again?
Yes. So what we are trying to do is, we're trying to understand how leaders such as yourselves, immediately transition to the whole work from home or work from anywhere thing when the pandemic hit. It's like learning the lesson. And then over the last 2 years, how have you strengthened the organization to continue working in a remote working environment?
Thank you. Basically, in last 2.5 years, it has been discussed. I mean, the main topic. So many people discussing on this topic so many times. So my view is that this is the first time in, if I remember correctly, then it was March in the 21st. Then we took immediately lockdown. The world observed, basically in Bangladesh, it has been observed that immediately kind of all off, and we have to run the show. This is a kind of BCP, and there is no option of failure. So that's what we feel on that time. So immediately on that ground, immediately we had to send the people to home for their safety within their crisis of the family, children's, and all these stuffs. We have to support that. First of all, doing online everything is, it was never prepared in Bangladesh or for particular banks. So it's a different atmosphere that working at home and working physically at office. So the first challenge is to enable which services actually we are going to provide through online, and which services will be off and which will be actually temporarily stopped for the customers. So that we have to communicate clearly. And the challenge was immediately the journey of each services. I mean, the journey start to end, there may be a manual interactions. So everybody, every people, every staff, every employees want to get everything online, want to give everything online. So all the attachments, emails, and even though customer sensitive data, it has been shared in cloud. So that was a major risk, because there was a kind of, I would say it was R&D. So gradually the controls has been, a lot of controls have been established in a practical place. We basically two way we're supporting. First of all, it was a kind of teamwork, like some people will come in a different format like team AB. Some people are not ready enough to using laptops, or they are not eligible. So we have to purchase that. And then many of them, we are sending the workstations to home. So it was a real big challenge. Second thing is people and awareness, in terms of information security, human firewall is the main thing. So on that ground, there was a lot of things that people don't know how to protect themselves, how to detect, how to message to management or information team that this is a phishing, this is vulnerable. So that kind of stuffs we are facing, but however, it over a period of time, it has been covered. And another crisis is, as I listened a few minutes back, Zahid was talking about their bank projects and everything. Yes, we had that kind of challenge also, because service BU is a one more thing. Another thing is that change the bank. So change the bank initiative cannot do without a teamwork, without physical presence. There are a lot of things to do. Something going implementation, something at person training. It was kind of really pause and really defer to any other, or taking another plan to do. So all projects are getting hampered, and for a short period of time, even everything is deferring. This is a kind of actually challenges we are facing.
I have just one follow-up question. You said you had to actually decide on which services to provide and which services to not provide. Did the market allow you that luxury of not providing all these services in the first few weeks of the pandemic?
At the initial stage, yes, there was a regulator circular from Bangladesh Bank. They said they selected few services like you have to honor a check, you have to make available all your open your all ATMs because for the cash withdrawals, you have to provide minimum level of services, this kind of circular. So the management in the Mancom side or the senior management side, we had to sit and decide which services are aligned in accordance to regulator circular, and whether we can do it or not. So and what services we can actually stop on that very moment, and gradually when we can start. So that was the kind of decision I can remember.
That was, I no doubt you found it helpful, but thank you, Mr. Rahman, for your point of view. If I may move on, and if I may call in Mr. Sarzil Sarwar of BAT Bangladesh. We spoke briefly about the requirement for data privacy, and you are obviously a multinational, which means not only do you have to comply with the rules and regulations of the country, but also other countries. So organizations cannot take a passive approach to data privacy, just to be compliant to regulation, and then obviously, a lot of, So what strategies do you think organizations need to have to support remote work at the same time ensuring data privacy?
Thanks, Harish. I think that's a very practical one. I think we're all facing that challenge, and thanks to ABP for organizing this roundtable. I think I'll touch base on it on three parts. Primarily, one being the first question, which was around working from home, right? And I could tell you, like, since the start of pandemic, not only the employees were working, but we also had to facilitate our field forces and ensuring that people have the connectivity as well as the right security in place, because you would have home where they have access points, but running old firmwares, and spouses and kids working from home or going to attending school, streaming what is at all-time high. So it's not just about securing the laptop, but also all the endpoint devices within the employee's home, because one bad apple or one bad actor, and typically it's an insider one, destroys the entire piece. So we also had to replicate the same thing for our field forces who have, let's say 5,000, 10,000 plus field forces, which are having smartphones as well as tabs, and ensuring customer data privacy, because we are listed in the US as well as in London Stock Exchange. So GDPR comes into full effect. And hosting these customer information gradually becomes even more difficult, considering the fact that we had wave of cybersecurity attacks in the country since 2016. I think it's a combination of both sides. One is ensuring the secure connectivity. The other is also the behavioral best practices, and also ensuring there is central compliance running internal phishing attacks to ensure what percentage of the employees, which function or at which level are falling prey to this. Because there is one bit of it where you can actually make it a whole lot of difference if it's internal employees, by incentivizing, by penalizing, by sending them to mandatory courses, and they have to sort of pass that. But field forces becomes a bit of challenge. So we also have to adapt and maneuver based on the ground realities, and also encourage and incentivize people to ensure that these things are put into practice from a security standpoint. As far as GDPR goes, of course, because we operate in a very controversial industry, which is tobacco, we want to ensure the information is safeguarded, and there is no way others can sort of bring a point around that. So we are connecting all our confirmation, our customer information verified through the national ID information. So anybody and everybody who's accepting it has to do it through a OTP confirmation, as well as an exchange through the national ID, which is, I think in India would be the Aadhaar card. So far it has been well. We actually grown exponentially during the COVID time, both at remote working as well as on the field side of it. And I'll be very happy to tell you that we have implemented Zetna to ensure that getting away with VPN and just making sure that whoever wants to work from wherever, whichever appliances, so long as they have my Zetna app, I'm good to go. And I think we have seen the flexibility and the enjoyment around people that they don't have to walk with multiple devices to connect and then just not disconnect. And also it's just not about Zetna, but also that remote browsing from home is also ensured with that, so that at least we are able to assure people that these are the sites that you don't go to, and these are the blacklist ones, these are the whitelist ones, not just from our office side, but as well as from their home premise. So it was a double-ended approach, and we were fairly okay with both sides. And then it's always good to be part of a larger group that sort of promotes these kind of initiatives. So I think at a fair point, we did fairly well, and we overcome it. And more importantly, the ability to sort of digest the digital transformation that was coming our way, where we actually ran the entire office remotely with the field force for the longest period of time without any major hiccup.
Fantastic. Just two follow-up questions from what I heard from you. One, you said you implemented OTP. So you actually went for a two-factor or multi-factor authentication, and you pushed it down during COVID times.
We had that before, but we wanted to ensure that we have that layered up in terms of if a customer is giving consent, they have to do that in person and then share their OTP. Also, more so ever, the information that is being given out is verified with the national ID database. So that is like a multi-factor authentication, if you were to say.
Yeah. And the other thing you mentioned was blacklisting and whitelisting of websites, that your data can go to. Which is your preferred mode, blacklisting or whitelisting?
I think it depends, right? For the field forces, I would just go, going for a whitelisting approach, right? But for I think the general corporate audience, it's a bit different. But as we are a giant conglomerate operating about 50,000 employees, I think the blacklisting doesn't work well for us. And these are the areas where we're trying to offer flexibility at end markets, where I could actually decide what needs to be done with my field force or my corporate employees, rather than be dictated by central policies and whatnot. And I think that we've seen that a lot, where all these solutions have been far more market centric rather than just doing a global push. I mean, within the span of 2 years, we had to do so many of these patches, updates, even implementing Zetna remotely, that there were a lot of these caveats that we had to do. And touchwood, I think there was flexibility around both the cybersecurity leaders as well as the end market head of ITs, as well as the partners, because everybody figured that there is no way of working in the past that you would just try to replicate or adapt to that. So there has been a lot of fine tuning, and I think things are looking very bright. And I think people are also far more aware of information security and not revealing too much, as well as ensuring that their home network is their responsibility, not somebody else.
I did see Mr. Akramul Haq from Beximco, and then you also have a pharma presence among others. What's your take on whole data privacy compliance requirement along with cybersecurity during COVID times, sir?
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. And thank you very much for arranging this sort of intense discussion board. And thank you again for asking me the question. I must say that we are gifted and privileged in some extent that from the very beginning of the pandemic, when it was started globally in China, our management had a mental preparation along with the HR department that we may go offline. We may face some sort of work from home situation. So we had a preparation at least 2 months ahead of the pandemic breakout in Bangladesh. And moreover, we, especially I am closely working with BOL, Bangladesh Online, which is an ISP. We prepared our fleet, and within 2 weeks, we gave our employees at least 50 to 60 internet connections to their home, so that they can connect to the office very secured way. We focused on that. Though we had some very subtle incidents like password compromise or account compromise. So we adopted, already we adopted a product from Tenable, there is Nessus. And the concept of zero trust, it is adopted in our organization. Not so institutional, I must say, but the philosophy is adopted. So we went through all our digital platforms and web applications checked by Nessus. and introduced web application firewall, and two-factor authentication became mandatory. We also conducted very severe and close workshops for our non-technical and non-IT employees about the cybersecurity awareness, because in a moment we understood that not our office, actually our colleagues' bedroom became the part of our office. Their children become our colleague. We can never assure that the same mobile phone that is being used for their children classroom access, it can be used for the ERP access as well. So we had to facilitate them. But after 2 years of the situation, we must admit the awareness, very sharp awareness, and the alignment throughout the whole organization about the cybersecurity and the cyber incident is a must. And there is no alternative for that. So moreover, from very past, we were habituated or familiar with the work from home phenomena. And I can recall we provided around 40 PABX connections with a dedicated physical line to our colleagues' home, so that we can establish a very secure channel between us. We don't need to establish, come through the global internet. So the thing is, first of all, we minimized the attack surface. That was our first priority. And second, we checked all the attack surfaces, and we aligned our colleagues about the situation. We don't want to see any, or more importantly, we don't want to be the subject of discussion about cyber incident. And that's very embarrassing, especially for the partners we work with. The same thing actually practiced between all of our sister concerns in Beximco Group, like pharma, media. We have DTH project, Akash DTH, Beximco IT division, and Beximco Textile as well. So this is what, and we are still going through that practices as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll ask the same question to Rafil Bhai from Prime Bank. Are you on, sir?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
So Rafil Bhai, I think this data privacy question is becoming more and more prominent. So I've asked somebody from I've asked the regulated industries, and you are also a regulated industry, and because you move a lot of money around. So what's your take? How's data privacy requirements becoming more and more active, for you to stay in compliance with regulation, particularly because remote working will be a part of our life going forward?
Thank you, Harish. Thank you, ABP, for the initiative of INFOCOM, and thanks for having me. It's a great privilege for me to be a participant with lots of industry veterans. As Shamulda is here, he is the front runner in InfoSec domain in Bangladesh. So I have worked under his leadership directly. So it's really great. And thanks for the timely initiative. As you have mentioned, we are regulated, and data privacy is biggest concern. Yes, obviously. We are in a junction, actually. We are in a junction between on-premise and cloud adoption. Because when COVID actually hits on the financial domain, the first thing comes into CXO's mind, the CEO's mind, that we have to ensure protection, we have to ensure safety of our employees at first level. So from the day zero in our organization, we have ensured remote working for each and every employee, from the tailor, except the branch office, except the tailors. We have ensured all the back office employees should work from their home. The challenges comes into the picture at that time for the security professionals and for the technology professionals. How we will manage the identity access, how we will manage the device access, how we will control the applications, and how we will control the access into data. And last but not the least, the Active Directory security. Because Active Directory is the most favorite target for the threat agents. If I consider the attack surface management, Active Directory is the pinnacle. So everyone looks for to find out the loopholes at Active Directory level. So at first, we have checked the Active Directory configurations, try to find out the loopholes and try to fix it up. Then we have thought about the device access, but as Akramul Bhai mentioned, it's very tough to control the device compliance, because when employees are using their personal device, you can't impose them that you have to patch it in on regular basis, or you have to update each and every packages. So it's really tough. So you have, but on the other hand, you have to be flexible. You have to ensure the seamless connectivity so that they can be empowered more. So it would be a great challenge. It was a great challenge for us, but somehow we are able to manage it because as we have adopted few cloud-based solution, and we have.
Rafael, you've gone mute. Rafael, I think you've gone mute.
Hello, probably someone mute me. Okay, so I don't know which bit you have
last 10
access,
seconds.
But,
last 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So it was a great challenge for us at that moment to ensure the device compliance as well as the role-based privilege access along with the multi-factor authentications. Because we are giving access to the people from their own device, they are accessing, they are authenticating through our Active Directory with single sign-on, they are accessing to privilege access management, then they are having the MFA again, then they are accessing to the servers. And we have differentiated the severity of accesses, like which are the users who have read-write privilege, and which are the users who have only read access. So on the basis of that classification, we have imposed the controls as well. And still we have the challenge. We have the challenge about Active Directory because we are continuously observing that threat agents are always trying to poke or trying to find the vulnerabilities in our Active Directory levels. So it would be a great challenge on continuous basis because threat landscape is evolving, new attack techniques are into the picture, and cyber criminals are following different cyber kill chain. So I think the discussion, that sort of discussion and the more solutions should comes into the picture in future by addressing the Active Directory security and for the data security as well.
Thank you, Rafael. I think, very, very pertinent items you mentioned. And in a way, you've given me the segue for my next question and the next person I was going to target. You mentioned Active Directory and you mentioned Shamal Das. So I'm going to ask Shamal. Shamal, are you on?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you.
Hi. Right. So I'm going to ask you on Active Directory, which is what Rafael spoke about. So, we see that hackers ultimately wants to launch the golden ticket attack, whereby they always target the Active Directory. And from there, once you get control of the Active Directory, then obviously, the hackers can go anywhere in the organization. Do you see, do you see that CIOs have the ways and means to counter, attack on Active Directory infrastructure?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting me here. Actually, And it's good to see that a lot of top officials are here, those who understand information security very well. I wouldn't be able to tell you so much technical in nature. Thank you, Harish, for the question. But I would rather touch upon two topics here in a few minutes, because I think everybody needs to add few words here. Rafael is a very technical person. I am nothing close to Rafael, so I give him all the.
Looks like a mutual admiration society between you and Rafael.
Yeah, not Rafael. I mean, I would say all my colleagues here. Zahid is also here. We all work together. So I practiced security a long time back. Then I handed over to people like Rafael, Zahid, and all who are running the industry at the moment. So I wouldn't be getting more into technical of it, Harish, even though you asked me a very technical question. But one thing I want to say, that the hybrid working environment is here to stay. I wouldn't go into remote, neither I go into physical. But recently a McKinsey study says that 90% of the organization will be moving to hybrid working environment, because that is what I think COVID has taught us in the last few I would say a year and a half. So going on to that, what you mentioned is Active Directory is a very specific question, but first I touched 2 points where I would say that 600% increase in that phishing attacks, which you must have seen, over 600%. So that is one topic I want to say. Another topic I want to say is BYOD. Okay, bring your own device. These two topics very closely, I think, goes with your Active Directory, if you say penetration or any kind of attack on that. So while I say that the 600% increase, the best part, if you see, I have a bit of data here, which as I said, I'll say in short. If you see, there is an attack of 137 attack by a company called Barracuda. You know about it. They said that there were about 2% of the 468,000 global email attack was classified as COVID-19 theme. So you can understand, while we all were saving ourselves, or we are trying to not listen to the word COVID-19, but we have been all keeping our ears open what's happening in COVID-19, right? At that time. Just like, I think all our attention is in Ukraine war now. So anything, words with hash code with Ukraine, we immediately go into that news. So at that vulnerable moment, having such kind of email, so you can understand anything with COVID, we used to click it. And also there is some more percentage was seen at 34% as brand impersonation attack, such as maybe coming from another bank, coming from another top organization where you work with, even from top vendors or our OEMs. We felt that it didn't happen, but anything from that, technology people has done it. And we found out that one person has been email compromised. So anyways, all these are connected to your Active Directory, as you can see. One more thing we forgot during this time, we have allowed our employees to use their devices. So we thought like, we are using team. So while you are using team within the organization, you forgot that your employees probably using the team from their mobile phones, which is another very, very top area felt by top OEMs or top security companies, that that is the most vulnerable area that we forgot to mention. So we felt that employees actually joining in the team or sharing a document in the team through attachment, which is again through mobile device. So we do not know how secure his mobile device is. So Harish, I will not say much. I want to, as I said, hybrid work is here to stay. In terms of Active Directory, as you mentioned, I am not a very technical person, and I will not get into, you asked me a technical question, but I can say that if you really look into these two areas are very, very well connected to your Active Directory. So while you need to be very, very careful. One thing we have done, one thing people tend to mistake while they are in a risk situation like COVID-19, we tend to forget that we have to do something new. Yeah, we need to be innovative, but at that time, if you try to do something new, that could bring more risk for you. So what we did in our organization is, whatever the security we have, we tightened it, we created more awareness. And fortunately, in my previous organization, we had a very good, SOC, Security Operations Center. We ensured The security operations center was monitored very, very well. All the attacks were looked into very, very carefully. So we increased the monitoring, okay, in terms of, and mostly in Active Directory, as I said that because, and recently some organizations were attacked in the Active Directory, and there was a massive attack as well, such as ransomware, many things were happened in those areas. So again, as I said that I will not go into much of technical, but these are the some areas that we need to really look into, the basics, create awareness. And what we have done, we kept good relationship with our partners, such as your companies like who are advisories, OEMs, as well as the big fours. Because they have been our partners in terms of doing our standards, our certain security postures to be looked into, certain audits. So we ensured and kept a very good relation with them that what's happening and what are you doing for the big organization. Because at that time, just putting budget is not solving the solution, but doing what is there and keeping it safe is the solution. So we looked into those areas, Harish. So as I said, I will not go much into detail. I will leave to other industry leaders here and all the respected CIOs, CISOs all over here. That's all from me, Harish. I think I could add only this much, not much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you, Shamal. Very helpful. I think 2 or 3 things, I would add here. I personally worked with a few clients which got hit, during the COVID period by ransomware attacks. And I think in all cases, the common thing that I saw was, they would come into the environment, sit in the environment for 2, 3, 4 months, and corrupt all the backups before starting to move laterally across the organization. And, in one case, we caught the movement 3 months later, by which time, like I mentioned, all the backups were gone. And, in large organization, you can't really enter data, forget 3 months, you can't enter data for 3 days again. But, we figure out a way of cleaning up, of all the malware that was left. And, and thankfully, I think the client went ahead with the things. And the other thing that you rightly see is we saw a lot of advisories going out, and most organizations which were applying the advisories timely, I think, were safe. I was reading just an hour ago, I think, because of this whole strife in Eastern Europe, I think there is a massive cyber attack which has been launched today, which is not related to COVID, but really more to the war that is happening. And I saw that some nearly 6,000 wind turbines are out of action in primarily in Germany, which has affected about 11 gigawatt of power. So a lot of people are now without power. And then I was seeing, people don't have internet access, because some of those networks are just down because of the cyber attack that has happened today. So I think we are seeing a lot of these things, and it will just help if organizations, when you get the advisories from organizations like ours or other security organizations, it just helps to apply it timely. Because as we were talking earlier during the session, as Sudeep was saying, security has become agile. You have to keep applying, updating your controls twice a day, 4 times a day, who knows. But I'm going to call on another gentleman, Mr. Abu Nader. You're there, sir?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. From Berger Paints, Bangladesh. Similar question. How are you seeing organizations secure their Active Directories to avoid, any golden ticket attacks by hackers?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for the event. First of all, I'd like to let you know that in the year of 2019, actually, Berger Paints is a ISMS 27001 certified company, that the Information Security Management System. So to achieve the certification, one of the key activities was BCP, the Business Continuity Plan. So keeping in mind, in 2019, we really prepared by ourselves the whole operation that has to be done remotely, that we have to execute. It had been audited, and finally we achieved the whole things that it has been done. To be very honest to you, that it's really greatly helped Berger Paints Bangladesh Limited to move the operations remotely. Now, let me tell you a few things about the Berger Paints. That In our organizations, it's absolutely heterogeneous. As a multinational company, we use the on-prem solutions, cloud solutions, your robotic solutions, IoT, web solutions. There is a heterogeneous and hybrid solutions, as well as we maintain our DR. So when the situation arises in the March year 2020, actually before the shutdown of the government, just 2 weeks back, our Mancom take up a call and we publish all our SOP to run the show from remotely. And from that day, from 2 weeks back, all the manual that has been updated into our system and all the users, each and every of budget pains, that they knew it very well, what are the guidelines and what they can do and how much they can be done. One more thing that I would like to add that Budget Paints is a very highly capable and potential team, and they have the foresee that what we can do and what we have to plan in our future roadmap. The reasons behind actually, if we see our product that we use, in our DC, we use the Fortinet, the firewall, the intrusion, the EOP, the ATP, the ATA, your multi-factor authentications. Even internally, Budget Paints Bangladesh Limited, every year we do the audit by ourselves. You would say that the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Everywhere we do that part. We're using your Rapid Sevens, that Insight IDR, even Azure Identity Protections. So most of the cases, we are as organizations, our board has very focused on the technologies, and they always allow us to make it be more secure. Actually, what are the tools that you may require in future? And obviously, using the 4 giants, in every 2 years, we have to conduct an audit and get ourselves actually what we are lying. Even the last year, actually, it was in 2020, we had been done an audit by Microsoft. From the Microsoft, we had been rated as 70% of the ratings, and they identified that very few Fortune 500 companies had such a security levels. One of the most biggest thing that we had been encountered in this period, the reasons behind that, actually, we didn't allow any users to plug in the network to any other devices, because we use the pfSense for the VPN and IPsec for my DR VPN system. So we didn't allow any user to plug their devices. Rather, in somehow we arranged to deliver the devices from the organization to the user end. And from that part, actually, we use the system center. One of the biggest reason in Bangladesh or any of the organization for the attack is whether whole of your network and the node is gradually frequently it is updated or not. This is the first point of view. So if it is well updated, obviously you will get an edge to protect your organizations. Then you can identify that the VPN, the port that you are using for the opens your DC. So there are many security tools that you can apply, and you can protect from whole network. So as on date and time, that what we have experienced that it was the whole data and the whole systems, as we are then heavily SAP users. There are many solutions that we are using. Everything that we protected the whole organization from our side. And to be very honest, that during the COVID, though it's a manufacturing, it's a paint industry, we grew at a certain percentage. So that's all from my side. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm going to call on GM Farooq, Rupali Bank. You work in the public sector, sir. So you've got different constraints. Are you on, sir? Yes. Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank ABP Group and INFOCOM for organizing today's virtual session. At the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, when we started working from home, most challenging thing for all of banking sector in Bangladesh, people about Rupali Bank, was the endpoint security. Because that's time when we start first time in shadow IT. Our home, our our office. At first, we did not have any policy, and we faced some problems that vendor could not come to our office physically and confirm the support. This was a very big challenge for banking organization. So during the pandemic, we basically follow the business continuity plan. The business continuity plan was not raised that time so much, because even here we don't face these types of pandemic issue. And every day we try to apply these business continuity plan rules, and each and every day we arrange at least 2 virtual meetings. So the banking sector is not fully automated. Some systems are legacy, and with the IT people, both security field or database field or system administrator, we have scheduled a rostering duty. So it's not totally possible to work from home because our financial sector was fully open that time. So according to Bangladesh Bank guideline, we follow, they helped me lots of, as well as the Bangladesh Cyber Incident BDSART helped us lots of to control different types of attack vector, attack surface. They alert me, and different times they help us. Though we did work from the home, but we have a strong incident response team, and we always try to collaborate. We always try to make a good team and try to solve any problem. At that time, actually, we face lots of problem, and we are most concerned about the email security awareness, as well as ADDC and online transaction. Basically, the ATM transaction. That time, Bangladesh Bank also circulated the transaction limit. Single transaction limit was increased, and it was amount that 50,000 taka. Time to time, we are really habituated with the pandemic scenario, and it's as usual because by this time we develop our cyber security policy as well as business continuity plan. We build a strong incident response team. We fully in the Active Directory or secured our email security, as well as our customers. Most of the customers are now well educated about the cyber incident or cyber security, how to use their ATM card, how to use their internet banking. So they are so much educated now. And by this way, now we are doing good, better than previous. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. If I may call Mr. Khairuzzaman.
Yes.
Okay. You worked in several banks and now you are in almost what I would call a startup. How are you implementing security processes in your startup during this COVID time when everybody is in a remote working environment?
First of all, I'd like to thank to ABP and INFOCOM Group, as well as to organizer of today's program. I also would like to thank today's session's moderator, Mr. Harish Agarwal. Thanks to everybody, to all of my colleagues in IT industry, those who lead the IT industry. So, as you know that now I'm working with the Central Counterparty Bangladesh Limited as a Deputy Managing Director. And the organization, this organization will be final goal to be risk management and settlement among the capital market area. So the highly integrated solutions we have to implement in the our organization that will be integrated with the exchanges, that means DAC, CIC, Central Depository Bangladesh Limited, as well as the central counterparties. Most of them will be the banks. So we started our journey from 2020 to the 2020. We start our journey to implement this system. So fully this sessions we work together completely in our hybrid mode because only the online and it was very tough for us. So we, in hybrid mode, we do the work, and all of my colleagues also already explained the challenges they have faced, and we also on the same page to overcome the challenges. Already we took some preliminary decisions, and because still we are in process to implement our system and design a stage. So for our internal setup, we use the Microsoft 360-degree, and so that we can on licensing, so that our internal communications and the other setup can be initially can be in secure manner. That is also our initial stage. But beyond that, I would like to say some points that you know that we are in working for establish in the high integrated solutions for the Bangladesh capital market, integrated with the all entities along with the banks. So initially we took some very challenging decision, important decision, and our board is very aggressive on this, consider on the security. You know that we have selected the Ernst & consultancy services for this our full systems design, and they are working with us for the implementing of central counterpart systems, and they have prepared our whole applications, the CCP systems vendor will select for this in the worldwide, and very, very cautiously for design our system, we are working for the security issue to address all those things, the application level, as our application should be, RTO should be the 1 hour and RPO should be 0. And as the real-time systems will be handled here for the risk management also. So as our DCDR should be absolutely active and active passive mode, and by the 1 hour we should live from the real setup. So understand we incorporated from the board has decided to get international standard security policies, and the application should be higher. So we did all those things. Parallel to that, we already have decided to working for design our whole network infrastructure and the security. And not only that, we are designing for our security information event manager SIEM, as well as the zero data attack mitigation, vulnerability, and what policy and whole structuring we are doing all these things. So all of my colleagues already experienced, they have some challenges, and I was in that industry last 32 years, in the banking industry as well as capital market. So all are we in the same page for the challenging all those activities. In this case, I was serious on that, and all the board is serious on that. So we have to establish such a system. So initially we designed for this application level, network level, database level, all those things to how can you overcome, so that for a certain period we can successfully integrate it with all the entities with a secure manner, and our database and all those should be secure. So this initiative already we have taken. Hopefully, shortly we can come on in our operations by the next year. So thank you to Mr. Harris for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
So how we start our new startup journey as a green techno business greenfield establishment in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I know we are running out of time, so I'm going to quickly call on a couple of other CIOs to share their opinion. If I may call in Mr. Husna Zaman Aladi. Are you there, sir?
Hello. Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hello, Harish. Hello. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So, I will finish within very short time. So, at the time we started this home office, so at that time we had few challenges like to making our end user device safe, and another challenge was to how we can because most of our users are application users. So it was a big challenge when they will use this application from home, how we'll make our application safe. So this sort of challenges we were going through. So at that time we did few things. First, we ensure VPN for all of our users, except the sales user, because they use their own device, mobile device from field. So then we ensured that whoever are using that VPN, they are using updated antivirus. Then we divided our applications in two parts, like fewer we have to ensure that people who are using these applications, they are using with correct role and they are using a strong password, because that is very important. Few users sometimes they use very easy password, and at that time it is very easy to hack and to get information from. So that we ensure. So in that, ensure the proper firewall with port-based security. This sort of thing we ensure. And at that time, we by using this thing, we try to actually make our environment safe, the IT environment. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I think we're running out of time, and I apologize. I've not been able to call on each of the present CIOs here, but I'm going to just open it up. And sir, if you can just if somebody wants to share something, please do right now. Okay. In that case, I think I would start by thanking all of you for joining us today. The way I was writing down some of the key areas that we discussed. I think we discussed there is a key focus on getting the basics right, in getting the processes right, in training people, in hardening the systems, in hardening the Active Directory, in hardening endpoint security. There is a huge focus on incident response and business continuity. People have deployed stuff like multi-factor. And finally, again, to borrow Sudeep's word, security has become agile. I think, I had, for me, this was a very, very informative session, and I had great fun. I would like to thank you all CIOs, CTOs, senior leaders in Bangladesh. I would like to thank Sudeep and Sumit for joining me today. And finally, thank you to ABP INFOCOM to organizing this session. Raki, and I think our old friend Khalida is also here. Thank you all.
Thank you
so much, everyone, for joining us today. From despite your busy schedules, you've all of you CIOs have joined in today, and it was very nice meeting you all after a very long time. Thank you, Harish sir, for moderating the session. I'd like to thank our partners Tenable and CyberArk for helping us initiate this roundtable. I am really glad we could meet despite all odds. I shall be in touch with all of you for your quotes for the Telegraph feature, which will be coming out soon in the newspaper as well as the online edition. So thank you everyone for joining in today for the INFOCOM CIO Connect Roundtable discussion, which has been presented by Tenable and CyberArk and powered by the Telegraph Online. It was an honor to have you all with us. With that, we would be signing off. Thank you everyone. Be well, be safe, and stay virtually connected. Thank you everyone.